most of the fintech can be categorized into these four categories. So AFSI, the Islamic Fintech Association of Indonesia, is also managing the members, divided them into four categories: yeah. Payment, peer-to-peer, securities crowdfunding, and inovasi keuangan digital or digital financial innovation. While payment, peer-to-peer, and security crowdfunding are quite specific, the one under IKD, that is like all the new things go to this category, go to this last category until they become sizable to be specially regulated by the related regulators. Yeah. Terus the at the moment, again, as I mentioned previously, we have 7 official Islamic peer-to-peer lending companies: Amana, Alami, Dana Syariah, Etis, Papi Tupik, Kaswa, and Duha Syariah. And we are glad to say that, wait, about peer-to-peer, peer-to-peer is the most matured category of fintech in this country. Yeah, so we have the largest number of operators, I mean, the largest number of players, and also the largest value of the business. Unfortunately, the country currently has issued 102 licenses. Only 7 are Islamic. So on 7 Islamic, 95 conventional peer-to-peer lending. And glad to say, all of these 7 Islamic peer-to-peer lending, I can guarantee that none of those are digital loan sharks. I mean, if you do your own research, you can see that a lot of fintech players, some of those are becoming digital loan sharks. They charge crazily high interest rate, so it is not really helping the people, but making people miserable. But all these 7 Islamic fintech, none of those are digital loan sharks, and all of those are focusing on productive financing. Some are a bit specialized, like Dana Syariah. They focus only on financing property projects, but the rest, I think they provide financing for multi-sectors of SMEs, small medium enterprises. Then, as I explained previously, under inovasi keuangan digital or digital financial innovation, that's where all the new things are regulated by the regulators. And at the moment, we have identified at least 15 subcategories of this digital financial innovation. As you can see here, aggregator, financial planner, blockchain, financing agent, and the rest. And I'm sure these categories will keep growing because, again, in startup in technology, new ideas keep coming up. So in Indonesia, only at the moment, according to our records, only these companies are currently holding licenses as a Islamic fintech under digital financial innovation. And then securities crowdfunding, this is one of the newest category in this country. So no wonder that the players are still quite limited. So the in a quick look, securities crowdfunding is quite similar with peer-to-peer financing, but the difference is peer-to-peer financing, they provide financing to the borrowers, to the SMEs, using a simple financing agreement. But securities crowdfunding, as the name says, securities, so the way they provide financing will be through some instrument, either sukuk or obligation, which is that base, or directly as equity. So it is a bit more complicated, but they can provide higher amount of financing. So this is just some of the members of AFSI at the moment. And as you can see here, I think the member, although the AFSI stands for Islamic Fintech Association of Indonesia, the members are not only Islamic fintech companies, but the members are Islamic fintech stakeholders. Because we believe to grow Islamic fintech, it is not just the business of Islamic fintech companies, but also we need support from various type of stakeholders. So in this case, like on the right side, quite a lot of our members are actually universities, because it is about educating the people, and certainly talking about educating the people, the community, the society. Universities are extremely important. So if I'm not mistaken, right now there are 29 universities in Indonesia has joined AFSI, and I believe we are also open for uh, foreign universities if they would like to join us to learn and to develop Islamic fintech together. And also here, there are a number of Islamic banks. They are not the fintech companies, but they are certainly important stakeholder, important institution that we need the support. We have BSI being the largest Islamic bank in this country, Bank Rio Kepri, Muamalat, and Aladdin. And non-fintech, like in our network, we also have some consulting firm, legal firm, uh, and a number of social organization too. Okay. So since we have very limited time, certainly I think we need one semester to fully understand Islamic fintech. But because of limited time, let's focus on the most major category of Islamic fintech, which is peer-to-peer. Yeah. So peer-to-peer, that's the most major one with the largest number of players and the largest amount of transaction there. So let's dig deeper. Yeah, I choose one companies, which is where I work because I know the detail of the company, and also because Ethis is can be considered as the one of the oldest Islamic fintech, not only in Indonesia but in the world. Ethis has started their journey in 2014. That's where that is when even the term fintech was not recognized, and even crowdfunding platform was something very new. So what happened in 2014? The founders, a Muslim young man from Singapore and one Muslim young man from Indonesia, they decided to collaborate to connect investors, Muslim investors Singapore to support project in Indonesia, because crowdfunding or fintech was not recognized at the time. We considered ourselves as a club, as an investment club. Then later, people start talking about crowdfunding then fintech. And after that, Indonesia start having regulation for fintech. So immediately, as we apply for that regulation, on 2019, we get the first one. I mean, we are registered as an official fintech company in this country. And 2021, we get full license to operate in Indonesia. So being a fully licensed Islamic fintech company, certainly we also obtain licenses from several regulators, like from the Ministry of Information Technology, and being Sharia, we also get approval from the Sharia Supervisory Board from Majelis Ulama Indonesia, or the what do you call it, the Ulama Association of Indonesia, and to ensure our IT security, we have also obtained ISO 27001. Then one unique thing in Indonesia, I think almost all financial institutions must join the industry association appointed by the regulators. So being an Islamic fintech, we are members of AFSI, of Fintech Sharia Indonesia, but being a peer-to-peer, we must also be a member of AFPI, AFPI there. So, Nabila, my voice is still okay until now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so started from Indonesia, we expanded to Malaysia. In Indonesia, the license we get is peer-to-peer financing. But then in Malaysia, the license we get is equity crowdfunding. So this is just to show about the variety of licenses or categories of Islamic fintech. So peer-to-peer financing, as I mentioned previously, we provide financing to SMEs with simple loan agreement or simple financing agreement. But equity crowdfunding, as the name says, we help SMEs to get funding from investors, but equity-based. So it is like a small IPO for SMEs. As we all know, if we want to get listed at the country stock exchange, it is not easy and certainly quite expensive. So it's not suitable for SMEs. So equity crowdfunding is the solution for the one that is ready to offer their shares to the public, but they are still at SME level. Then, being an Islamic finance institution, we always remember that Islamic finance is always about commercial finance and social finance. So we use our technology to develop a social crowdfunding platform. Like Etis Indonesia, Etis Malaysia are commercial crowdfunding platform. We are talking about commercial funding, commercial financial transaction. But we established Global Sadaqah, that is to do social finance, to help people to do zakat donation. So the unique thing about Global Sadaqah, it is a platform to connect donors or what you call it, muzaki from all over the world, where they can choose project, they can convey their zakat, their infak, their sadaqah to any project in many parts of the world. So from global to global. I mean, like as we all know, quite a number of social crowdfunding platform, but usually they are just one country focused. But Global Sadaqah, the donors, the muzaki can be from any countries, and also the project to any countries. And last year, we believe we also create a new history in Islamic fintech when we finally get the license in Oman for Etis X. So unlike Etis Indonesia and Etis Malaysia, which are so country focused, Etis Indonesia is only to provide financing to SME Indonesia. Etis Malaysia only to SMEs in Malaysia. Etis X, it's like Global Sadaqah. The investors can be from any countries, and the project can be in any countries in this world. So I think this is the first. I think if we are not mistaken, this is the first Islamic fintech company doing that. And also at this X, not only talking about investors from many countries to project at many countries, but also they have licenses to do peer-to-peer financing and also equity financing. Oh, sorry, securities financing. Equity is part of securities. Securities crowdfunding or securities platform is about sukuk and equity. So in short, this is what one. This is an example of what Islamic fintech can do or can be benefiting the world. Yeah, like what Etis is doing. Our technology, we use it to connect the money from the funders to the one that needs it. So in both commercial and social. Yeah. And the users of this technology can be what ordinary people, the layman, or also can be the big investors or big donors. And the beneficiaries, the recipient of the financing or the donation can be also small individuals or until very large organization. Yeah, because of the technology, that is the benefit of fintech. Then we have bridged transaction from people in 85 countries in both commercial and social. And surprisingly, although we are having the latest largest operation in Indonesia, most of the money is not coming from Indonesia. That is the beauty of having technology. So people from all over the world can invest in many parts of the world. This is something which was almost impossible in the past. In the past, cross-border transaction usually were done by large organization only because of very complicated and also quite expensive. But technology make it easier and cheaper. So what Etis Indonesia is doing here is, let's see from the right side. We identified, we invite SMEs to place the project. Certainly, we review, we screen the project, put it in our platform. Then our platform, we broadcast it. I mean, from with our platform, local investors can easily see what is the project available that they can invest in. and we connect to our international platform to broadcast the information to the international stakeholders, as simple as that. And this is how we do it roughly. What I'm showing is our platform in Indonesia and the platform in Malaysia, Oman are quite similar. So with this simple website, and now we also have the mobile app for it. The investors or potential investors, either you are just a small individual or big institution or even bank, you can choose what are the project available, then can see quite detailed information about it. If they like it, they choose, pass the money, and the money will can only go to the project that they select. So through this website, they can see the amount needed, what is the money for, what would be the expected return, then the duration of the financing, and so on. Then if you click further, information about project and companies will be available there. Previously, Etis Indonesia started with just supporting property project, but starting 2020, we try to serve almost all sectors of SMEs. So this is roughly what we will do. So sorry that the slide is still in Bahasa. So the UKM is the SMEs. First, they apply through our platform, so they don't need to come all the way to the office to apply for the financing. Then we analyze with our system and technology. After that, we put it on the platform where the pemberi pembiayaan or the fund owners, they can see, and if they like it, they just click it and transfer the money. And being an Islamic fintech, we are very careful with the akad or the agreement. So we have the agreement with the SMEs, akad wakalah bil ujrah, and uh, we receive their amanah to promote, to help them in doing the fundraising. Then we also have a akad wakalah with the fund owners, where we become their representative in executing the transaction. And certainly between the fund owners and the borrowers or the issuers or the SMEs, there is also a clear akad, which is mostly musyarakat, and everything is done through the platform. But certainly at the moment, because technology is still very limited, when we finalize the deal, because our deal is usually a bit high, not really microfinance. We start with about 10,000 USD and above. Then to finalize, we invite the SMEs to come to do the final signing. So because of what we have done so far, we have received a number of international awards, Dubai, Singapore, and many others. And now, this is the summary of what we have learned about Islamic peer-to-peer after we do it for a number of years. So one thing to note that Islamic peer-to-peer is not a place where you come to borrow money, but it is actually a platform to help fund owners and project owners to collaborate. So we are not just like a bank or lender of the money, because the money is not ours. But fintech company, we provide the technology, we provide the platform to make things easier. Yeah. So the bottom line is this is to enable collaboration between multiple stakeholders, especially the fund owners and the project owners. I hope this is the you catch this inspiration. Yeah? So it is not lender company. Okay, so what is the benefit of this technology for the fund owner? So the fund owner now can easily and efficiently can easily know what are the project available that they can invest their money in. In the past, this information is so limited. Usually only the banks and some larger organizations have it, and certainly they are not sharing it with the public. But now even any individuals can click the platform, any peer-to-peer fintech, and see what are the project available there and have further information about it. So in the past, first it is too difficult, or they need to contact the project owners just to get more information about those projects. Then what we have learned is because we apply musyarakah, we apply profit and loss sharing, then it is also an opportunity to get attractive return. So the return so far is certainly way higher than the return you can get if you place your money in the bank at the time deposit. In Indonesia right now, time dep time deposit is either from conventional bank or Islamic bank is just giving about 2 to 4%. I mean, we are talking about the big national banks, but for if BPRS or the community bank can be higher. But in general, the Islamic peer-to-peer, because of the profit sharing approach, the investors have the opportunity to get potential return more than 12 or even sometimes more than 16. And if the project are really good, can be more than 20%. So such a high return still not make you a loan shark, because that we are doing it profit sharing. When you receive high return, we can be sure that the SMEs are enjoying even higher return. Usually the nisbah we apply is about 30-70, meaning we only take 30% or 40%, and the larger portion goes to the SMEs. So when we make 20%, meaning the SMEs is getting more than that. And as we all know, actually the return at SME level is quite high as long as they can get the right support, including the right financing. Then for the fund owners, you can choose, you can go to the long term or even the short term one, and can be started with small investment. In the past, if you only have about less than $1,000 or even less than 10,000 USD, nothing much you can choose. Usually you just put it in the bank and that's it. But now with as simple as 1 million rupiah or about 100 Sing dollars, then you can start your journey as an investor. Then this is also to facilitate financial democracy. What we mean by that is even now a small individual, a small investors, they can choose the project that they would like to support. In the past, this kind of democracy does not exist. Yeah, only what people in general are doing is just putting the money at the bank, and the bank will choose the project. But now you have the option. If you want to choose your own the project, then you can go to peer-to-peer platforms. And then the benefit for project or business owners. First, they can get competitive, fair, and more flexible financing. I think we have heard a lot of sad stories. SMEs, especially the small one, where they do not have fixed asset to be the collateral. Most of the time, they do not have the choice but go to loan shark. So they work very hard, but the big portion of the profit, or even almost all of the profit, go to the loan shark. But now they have opportunities to get better financing, or I call it healthier financing. And as I mentioned previously, most of the Islamic peer-to-peer, they focus on productive financing. Yeah. And again, this is also to enable musyarakah financing. I think it is also a global concern that most of Islamic financial institution in the world, most of the deals are based on murabaha, because musyarakah is more complicated. But here with peer-to-peer, musyarakah is easier to be executed. And because of the regulation currently, peer-to-peer in Indonesia, either Islamic or conventional one, is only allowed to provide financing maximum 2 billion rupiah only, or about 100, 160, 160,000 US, 160,000 USD. That's the maximum based on the current regulation. Then also there the benefit for the public in general. Peer-to-peer is not about, actually it's not just about connecting people from far away, but what we believe that it is also a facilities for members of community to collaborate, because we have identified in a group of people, sometimes there are good project uh, there are business owners with good project as the member of community, and in the same community there are quite a number of people with extra cash. So with peer-to-peer, among neighbors, among members of a community can have a financial collaboration. Then, as we all know, the rich people, rich countries are the one who do investment, not just saving. Sadly to say, Indonesia is still dominated with saving cultures or budaya menabung. Peer-to-peer is helping the country to grow, to develop investment cultures in order to reach higher level of prosperity. Okay. Then also the third reason, it is solving one of the biggest problem in SME sector. I think this is not just in Indonesia, but in Indonesia alone, many SMEs, I think millions of those, they do not have fixed asset to be collateral. Hence, they cannot go to the bank, they cannot get healthy financing. But peer-to-peer is allowing, um, I mean, with the peer-to-peer technology, with the culture that they develop, it is even now it's providing more financing without fixed asset collateral. So it is solving one of the biggest problem in SME sectors. And please think about other benefits of the peer-to-peer. Okay, so that's it. I purposely not to give a long lectures because I would like to have interactive discussion with you, inshallah. So please, Nabila, continue.
All right, sir, maybe we can continue to the next session, question and answer session. For the participant who has a question, you can raise your hand, or maybe you can put the question in the chat box.
Please feel free to ask any question. Do not hesitate, including some not too nice question. Like what I've experienced in Indonesia, a lot of people are when they hear about fintech, they jump to they jump straight to pinjol. Yeah. So usually fintech is pinjol, but the pinjol is just giving bad name to fintech. So feel free to ask me anything related to fintech.
All right, sir, there is a question from Tania in the chat box, sir. In Islamic fintech is still in its infancy in many markets. Limited market share or small number of potential customers interested in Islamic financial products and service can be barrier to growth. How to raise awareness about Islamic fintech and the approach to Islamic finance being used by industry players now?
Let me read it carefully.
Alexa.
Okay, Tania is from UMI, from Muhammadiyah, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think the question is about two things, Islamic fintech or Islamic finance. So, Tania, which one do you want to ask actually? Islamic finance in general or specifically about Islamic fintech?
Fintech, sorry.
Okay. So the question is more about Islamic fintech, yeah? Yeah, but actually your question is really good because Islamic fintech and Islamic finance is something that is cannot be separated, especially when it comes to raising awareness of the people. Yeah. There's still a lot of misunderstanding about Islamic finance, and Islamic fintech is even more. Islamic fintech is facing a lot of misunderstanding by being Islamic, and also some misunderstanding by being fintech. Yeah, and those misunderstanding can only be solved by increasing the number of the effort of education to public in general. So that's why in AFSI, we realize the importance of public education on these matters. So that's why we invite universities to join us as well. So if we just rely on the Islamic financial institution or the Islamic fintech companies to educate the people in a very big country like Indonesia, certainly it is impossible. But if the universities and other educational facilities, including school, high school, and the rest, are willing to take part in educating the people, then we can start to see the changes. But again, for you all, all you as being a university student, please be careful. Now, I mean, like you are being a student when, I mean, 30 years after we have the first Islamic bank in this country. So the way you learn Islamic finance and when the way you teach or educate other people about Islamic finance must be more advanced than previously. I mean, 30 years is a long time to go. 30 years ago, like in the early 2000, it is just about introducing Islamic finance to the world, to Indonesia. But now, after 30 years later, we cannot just about introducing it. It is the responsibility of the current student, academician, lecturers, and also practitioners to also review the practice and the existing education on Islamic finance. We must make sure that it is time for us to revise things a little bit, so as educate the people bluntly, but we must have a critical thinking about it. So for example, it is right now, in the past, we only hear about Sharia compliance. Yeah, but now people start introducing other terms like Sharia performing or even to Sharia. But what we need to do together is developing Islamic finance product, including a stronger, better by being Islamic in this case. So Tania, am I answering your question or please feel free to ask further?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
I think I got disconnected for a few seconds.
Yes, sir. Tania said the answer is already answered the question, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right, maybe another participant. Alexa, in the chat box, there Handy Surya. Based on your presentation about fintech Sharia in Indonesia, there are only less than 20 companies, if he's not mistaken. So what do you think about it? I mean, like as far as he's know, there are a lot of fintech companies in conventional. This is too different with Sharia. So my question is, the question is whether it is enough or let's say good enough because it is developed, or Sharia fintech still have a problem that cause the development in fintech to be low.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Hendy, for the question. Yeah, totally agree. The number of Islamic fintech companies in Indonesia in comparison with conventional is very, very low. That is just to show some sad truth, yeah, that the number of capital provided for conventional institutions are much higher than the number of capital available for Islamic finance institution. That is the truth. And also recently, oh, not recently, but since few years ago, the government is increasing the barrier to entry for fintech business. So now it is not easy to establish uh, fintech a new fintech company, either conventional or Islamic, just want to establish a new one, then the minimum capital required will be 12.5 billion rupiah. In the past, it was 1 billion, then increased to 2.5 billion, now to 12.5 billion. So the startup initiated by young people or university students certainly cannot enter to that area, right? It is too heavy, too expensive. And also the number of venture capital or investors for Islamic finance is also very, very limited. I think because in general, stakeholders, especially the investors, they are still not used with non-interest approach. Yeah. They like to have guaranteed, they like to have a guaranteed return and protected principles, yeah, but not really ready to do profit and loss sharing. But I think, but we have no choice but just to keep going, to keep educating the stakeholders, Islamic fintech in a country or in the community. Am I answering the question, Handi? Oh yeah, a bit more. Uh, Islamic fintech or fintech in Indonesia is considered by the regulators as a type of financial institution. Yeah. So to do the formal one, not easy, not cheap. Yeah. But then, what I personally believe, the technology that we have developed can be absorbed by the communities or by the smaller financial institutions like the BMT, Koperasi Syariah. They can adopt the particularly the philosophy and also the technology from the formal fintech companies. Yeah, so the benefit of fintech does not have to come from the formal one, but when we can have local traditional cooperative, Koperasi Syariah or the BMT, where they adapt the latest technology, then the people can also get benefit from that formal licensed fintech company. Yes, so there are two things. Is a type of institution, but and also it is a technology. Technology can be absorbed by anyone. Nabila, can you still hear me?
Sorry, sir. I'm not. I cannot hear you clearly because I think your network. Because it's a bit lag, sir.
Or Handy, can you hear me? The problem is not.
Yeah, but it's a bit Nabila said it is not really clear, but yeah, I got your point, sir.
Okay, so the problem is with my connection, yeah. Usually it's good.
Yes.
Should I turn off my video now? Okay, so is it better now?
Yes, sir. It's better.
Okay, so Handy, you get my point, or do I need to repeat it?
Yeah, I got your point, sir. It's okay. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
All right. Thank you for Henny for the question. Maybe for another participant, we have still a time, so you can raise your hand to give a question or maybe put in the chat box.
No question from the organizer?
For me, it's not, sir. Maybe for another.
Okay, Nabila, I think we can wait for another 5 minutes. If nobody wants to have the question, then we can end the session. Yeah.
All right, so maybe from another friends from this organization, or maybe from another participant, like from the Palestine. You can put the question in the chat box, or maybe you can raise your hand.
Okay, just for info for the brothers in Palestine. Currently, AFSI, the Islamic Fintech Association of Indonesia, is developing this solution that we will propose for our brothers in Afghanistan about how Islamic Fintech and benefiting the people in their countries, especially the poor. So who knows, that solution, once it is completed, can also be used in Palestine and any other country that needs better solution for poor people and micro enterprises.
All right, so maybe we can end this question and answer session now.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Let's close the session, Nabila.
Sarah. Okay. Thank you to Mr. Jamil for the creative material. Hopefully, it can help the audience to have a better understanding of Islamic fintech. We are turning to the last agenda, which is closing. As the master of ceremony, I do apologize for any mistakes during this event. Finally, I say thank you. Before leaving this event, kindly please everyone turning on your camera because we want to take a picture. All right, if everyone is ready to start. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, once again, 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you everyone for joining this event. See you in the next event. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Nabila.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.